Tonight for homework, your children will be working on solving a ratio table where there's a unit of subs and people. In this situation, one person is going to get 2/3 of a sub. You could model this by drawing one sub, splitting it into thirds, and shading in the two parts that would be what one person eats. To find out what the second person needs, you can draw a second sandwich. That sandwich also needs to be divided into thirds, and you can show the 2/3 pieces that the second person gets. In our ratio table, we now fill in that if two people were to have 2/3 of a sub, the total would be 1 whole and 1/3. 1 and 1/3. If there were 3 people that each needed 2/3 of a sub, they would need to eat another 2/3, which would be 3 people, and would indicate that there are 2 wholes being eaten by 3 people. The pattern that we are working on getting the students to recognize is that the ratio table shows us that 2 subs are divided by 3 people, which is the same as 2/3 would be needed by 1 person. We're also looking for commonalities to figure out how we can use our ratio tables to find relationships between other numbers. For example, 3 has a relationship with 6. The relationship between 3 and 6 is that it can be multiplied times 2. In a ratio table, whatever you do to the bottom, you do the same process to the top. So this 2 can then be multiplied times 2. 3 times 2 equals 6. 2 times 2 equals 4. The next connection that can be made is that 2/3 and 4/6 are equivalent fractions. The last connection that you can make is that we are looking at multiples of 3 because our denominator in our initial fraction is 3. The next multiple of 3 is 9. So I'm going to draw an orange line from 3 to 9 and ask, what is the relationship between 3 and 9? The relationship between 3 and 9 is that I multiply 3 times 3 to get 9. If I multiply whatever I do to the bottom, I need to do the same thing to the top. And I multiply 2 times 3, and I get 6. 6/9 is also an equivalent fraction to 2/3. Last but not least, the other connection you can make is that there is a pattern that continues on this ratio table. 2/3, 1/3, a whole. So our next box would be 2 and 2/3, follows the pattern. The next would be 3 and 1/3, and now we get our whole. The pattern continues for the 3 rows. Have a good night.